Let's just talk about religion for a minute. It is something that comes up in almost every conversation, particularly with people who are looking at developing their psychic intuition and stepping into a training that really develops their intuition, their belief system, and their connection to God. And because of the religious programming, there has been so much in our society that has called this sinful. And it's made it so we have been felt rejected by, or scared of, or felt like we were wronged. And if you look across history, like the witches, right? They were just connected to the earth and the plant medicine and the wisdom, and they were burned alive, right? But in the same token, if you were to zoom out on history and really look at the beginning of time of tribes and villages and communities, the most profound people and the most sought out people in those communities were the medicine keepers, the oracle readers, the shamans. And this is important because it's the most sacred art that has been tried to be erased for generations. But here's the thing, is we are so gifted and fortunate to live in the day and age that we live. 100 years ago, I probably would have told you, don't do this. You might be rejected. You might not be allowed to be this person. But we're so lucky to live in 2024 where we're not burned alive. We're not burned at the stake. We're not pushed off cliffs and drowned in water to see if our gifts are supernatural or not. We're in a culture where it's more accepted. And our ancestors on the other side are encouraging us to follow this path because they couldn't. Because it would have been dangerous for them. And speaking of this, right, like our ancestors, if you look back, are extremely intuitive. In history, not only were like the shamans and the oracle readers the most sought out, but if you look in religion, what is the prophet? Prophets are highly psychic people. And my question is why is it the prophet, the only one in the church, who's allowed to be in touch with intuition? It just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't feel right. Now, I was on the phone with a client today, a potential future psychic school student, and in her nice conversation, she was telling me, she's like, I really think that, religion and like God, like we're just one with God. And I looked at her and I said, exactly. All God is, and this is not to just signify the importance of God, right? Or great creator, whoever it is that you believe in, but God is us. God is absolutely, radically us. And I'll tell you something. It's one of the things that we unconsciously grieve so much. And it shows up in every aspect of our lives. Because you see, most of us have abandonment issues and feeling like we don't belong, and this sensation of trauma that affects us and how we connect and, quite frankly, live in the world. Because we're so scared that we're going to be left behind. But really, what we're afraid of is that God left us behind. That we're not on the spirit world in this huge abyss of unconditional love. But if you were to take our human body, right? So think of this. On a science level, we are literally all atoms condensed into form and into shape, right? Well, if you were to take our body and expand it bigger and bigger, sorry, I do not like the way my shirt looks right there and it's bothering me. Wrong time to be doing this. But if you were to take our body and expand it bigger and bigger and bigger, do you know what would happen? Our atoms would expand. And eventually, we would no longer have a defined form. And we would expand so big that we would become one. We would become one with every single thing around us, making us the supreme consciousness, making us part of God. Now, this is a radical viewpoint, but I feel like the Bible is just written in hierarchy. But if you got rid of the hierarchy, it all comes back to the teachings of Jesus, which is love. May our hearts be connected. Now I'm going to share something with you. I was 12 years old and I became fixated on finding religion. And my mom said, good luck, you're on your own. So I sought out all of my friends that were religious and I asked to go to churches with them because I wanted to find God. I wanted to belong. So I go to this church and we're in the kids' corner and it's super fun, like the teenage area. And then we go to sit in the sermon. And so we're sitting there with lots of humans. And all of a sudden, I'm 12 years old. I'm sitting there. And all of a sudden, I go from completely fine to 101 fever. And I remember thinking, the last time I was in a church, I was burned alive. Think about that. My 12-year-old mind, there's no way my mind could have made that up. I channeled that. The second thought I had was, God may be in these walls, but God is in the temple of my heart, and I can take that with me anywhere I go. Think about that. God is us, and we go with God everywhere we go. I left church that day. I got better. I never went back to church again. I went home and I started praying to God on my own. And I bring this up to you because I have Christians and Catholics who come and see me and they're always like, please don't tell anyone. For one, I'm like, I'm not going to tell anyone. For two, before every reading, I pray to God, I pray to Jesus, I pray to angels, Mother Earth, Divine Mother, our ancestors, and all my spiritual team. God is in this room, so I don't have to tell anyone, He knows. There's nothing wrong with you building your intuition and your psychic abilities, because all you're doing is you're building your connection with the God within you, the God within us, the God that lives all around us. And there's nothing more beautiful than that. So I invite us to let the walls of religion down and let the heart of love in. Let the heart of love